Hi, this is Katie with a quick video tutorial on how to create and use assignments and the Grade Center in Blackboard Learn. I highly recommend that this be the way you collect student work. It has a ton of advantages over trying to collect things by email, which is really hard to manage. This is really super slick once you know how to set it up. So I'm going to show you how to create an assignment, and then I'm going to show you how to organize your Grade Center. So the Grade Center is basically a grade book. It's a spreadsheet, so you can just have it automatically do the math, calculate your students' grades as the class goes along, and then at the end of the semester you will still have to go to UAA Online and submit their final grade there, but this is going to be the best way for you to collect student work electronically and to have the grade calculated automatically for you. So first thing I want to mention, of course you already know that My Grades is for students, or it might be called Grades. Whatever you have it named, that's where the students go and they see all the assignments that are in the grade book and the due dates, and then once you've graded something they also see their scores and your feedback, etc. So it's important to have all that stuff accurate and basically in the right order because the students will see it when they click on My Grades. And this is, again, a huge benefit of using the built-in gradebook in Blackboard Learn rather than doing it externally in some other program, because we want our students to be able to have that available to them 24/7 where they can go and see how they're doing and keep tabs on their progress, their own progress. So that's where the students go. If you want to see what that looks like, you're going to have to log in as a student. So you would just log out as an instructor up here, and then you would log in with your username _student. Password would be your UAID _student. And then you could click on My Grades and see what it looks like. You could even submit assignments and take tests if you wanted to, logged in with your student account. As an instructor, however, you're going to come down here under the control panel. So this whole control panel section is never available to students, no matter what. This is only for instructors. And when you go to this Grade Center, full Grade Center is where you're going to see the whole spreadsheet of the whole grade book. So I prefer this view myself just because I like to see all the columns in the Grade Center and basically all the information at once. Whereas needs grading, assignments, and tests are just ways to filter during the semester as you're doing the grading. It might be simpler to use one of those filters. But for setup, you need to be looking at the full spreadsheet, the full grade book, in order to get everything set up correctly. So the first thing I want to go over with you is how do you create an assignment that gives the student the ability to upload a file in Blackboard that will just automatically appear in your gradebook for your grading. So it's very easy to do. You can put it wherever you want. The way I've organized my sample class here is under assignments. I have folders for each week because I think it makes a lot of sense to chunk the information per week and make them available one at a time so it's not too overwhelming for the students. So you would go to wherever you want to put the assignment. Let's just go to week 2, for example. And inside the week 2 folder, there's already some things in this fake class, but you can tell by looking at the icon what they are. So this first one is a quiz, the second one is an assignment, and the third one is simply an item. So in other words, it's actually a video. And in this case, it's not showing up because my Firefox is blocking it, but I can just unblock it, and then that video will show up here in just a second. It'll refresh. So that's a kind of a Firefox issue that's a little bit weird. So back under assignments, now that I've changed my my browser setting under week 2, in order to make this video show up, there it goes, I will show you how to create one of these assignments. Assignments can have the instructions typed in them, or they might have a file attached, or both. You can really do it however you want. So the key is you go to assessments. So instead of build content, where you do a lot of the stuff like items and content folders and those kinds of things, assessments are tied to the gradebook. So all you do is have to choose assessments assignment. That's the key. And once you create that, it automatically gives the students a spot to upload their files and their comments, and it automatically creates a column in your gradebook for you. So it's really quite easy to use. So if I wanted to create a practice assignment here, I basically have to name it. I can put in instructions, or I can refer to an attached document, or to something that's above or below this already been typed into an item, for example. I definitely have to enter points possible. If I'm using a built-in Blackboard rubric, then I can select the rubric and the points would be entered automatically. Or if I just want to use a Word or PDF file with a rubric in it, I could just attach that and refer the students to looking at the rubric. The advantage of using a built-in Blackboard rubric is that it's easy for you to fill out because you can just, it's interactive. You can click on it and then it'll just calculate the student's points for you. So if you're not using a rubric, you would just simply type in however many points are assigned to that assignment. You can choose for attempts. I recommend leaving it on single attempt unless you specifically know they're going to be turning in a rough draft and then a final draft, and in that case you'd change it to 2. Unlimited attempts gets a little unwieldy and somewhat difficult for the instructor, so single attempt is the easiest to deal with. It depends on how you organize your class whether you want to limit the availability. Because I have this in a week 2 folder that's already available only starting at the beginning of week 2, I'm not even going to touch this. It's my philosophy not to ever make things disappear because then I find that students often get confused and then I get more calls and emails because something they used to see is no longer there. So I never make them disappear. And it's not necessary because it's going to be very clear when I fill in the due date when it's due, and it's also going to be crystal clear when they submitted it because it timestamps everything. So we'll all know when they turned it in. It'll be clear to us if it's late. So I personally don't usually limit the availability of assignments. And typically all students will be submitting an assignment individually. So all you do is hit submit, and as I said, that does 2 things. It gives the student a place to upload their file, and it also creates a column in your grade center, which we'll take a look at in just a second. So I've turned edit mode off so it kind of looks like what the student would see, and I scrolled down to the bottom of my week 2 folder to find the new assignment. It always puts new things at the bottom. So just to show you kind of what it looks like to the student. Of course, I could move this up. It doesn't have to be at the bottom. But when I click on it, the student will see this information. If there is a rubric, it'll be here, a link to it. Since I didn't attach a rubric, it simply just says the due date and the points. So the students could actually type in their answer, or they could attach a file, or both. They could attach multiple files as well. It'll allow them to attach a whole bunch of files. Depends on what you've asked for, of course. And then they can add comments in addition to that and then hit submit. So whenever they hit submit, it just automatically pops up in your grade center. You'll also see it under needs grading as well. So we'll take a look at that. Okay, now let's go into the grade center and see where you're going to find the students' work when they submit it. Scroll down into the control panel and go to the Grade Center, and in this case I'm going to go to the full Grade Center because I want to give you a few tips about understanding the big picture. And so the assignment I just created, because I created it after these others, is going to be at the end. So I'm going to scroll way over to the end, and this is what it looks like when students have submitted. So I just went in there real quickly and went in as a fake student and submitted these so I can show you how it works to grade it. So when you're ready to grade it, typically you would just click on this circle, view grade details, and this is where I was explaining it tells you exactly when the student turned it in. So again, there's no argument about, it'll even say late if it's after the due date. And when you're ready to see what the student turned in, you choose grade attempt. If the student had contacted you and said, I accidentally turned in the wrong file or whatever, then this is how you would clear it out as if they never turned it in. Or if you had multiple attempts and this was an attempt you wanted to ignore, but typically you'll use grade attempt. So this is the view that is a little bit different in this version. So the nice thing is, in this particular example, the student simply attached a Word document. And all Microsoft Office files and PDF files will show up using this new inline grading feature powered by Crocodoc. So you can actually see the student work without having to download the file. If they submit an unsupported file type, you can download it using this button here. But it's really nice because you can zoom in here, you can go from page to page, you can use these tools to even mark it up as you're looking at it. Probably the most useful is this comment button that allows you to put some comments in there and delete it if you decide you don't want it. I'm going to cancel that. So in other words, you can actually do the grading right here now, which is nice. When you are ready to enter the student's points, you simply click right here where it says attempt. And then you can type in however many points they earned. This one didn't have a rubric, remember, so I could just explain here in the feedback why, I deducted whatever points for whatever reason. So you can type in that information there. And then when you hit submit, again, it looks a little bit different. Then it actually just automatically goes to the next student for you. So you don't ever have to go back to that full grade center. Assuming you're grading after the due date, everybody's turned in. It just goes down the line and grades. So now here's the next attempt by another student, another fake student, CE4. And this one you can see was actually not a document. They actually just typed this into the submission text box. But again, I can see it over here. I don't have the option to mark it up when it's not attached. So if you want that option, make sure you tell the students to submit, to attach a document rather than type it into the box. And it's your choice, but you can instruct the student. So once again, I can just click in here and type in the points that the student got and give them feedback and hit submit, and it'll just continue to go to the next student. So to see how that looks, I'm going to go back to the full grade center. I can do that up at the top by going to Grade Center. And again, this is a fake class with fake students, but it'll basically give you the idea. So now I see the points entered there. And again, I personally recommend that you require students submit it this way so that you're not getting some by email, some on paper, and some electronically. Because again, here you can't have any arguments, and here you can't lose it. Here there's a lot of advantages to collecting things electronically, because they're always going to, the student files are just going to be there always, so you can't possibly lose them. You don't have to worry about blocking the email, which sometimes happens, etc. So a lot of advantages. So that's how you use assignments, and you can also attach points and grading, of course, to tests, but also discussion boards, blogs, and some of those other interactive tools give you the option. If you say you're going to assign points to it, then it will automatically assign a column in the gradebook for you. There may be certain things that you want to not collect electronically, but still give them points for, like maybe participation points or something like that. So you can create your own column manually when you're just going to be typing in. Then you would just simply type in the points for each student and hit enter and go down the list. And so you can enter points just manually that way. So how do you organize this so that you and the students can get the most out of the gradebook? Well, there's a couple of tips, and then I can work with you individually. But basically, you have to decide at the beginning whether you're going to be just using straight total points. In other words, you just want Blackboard to total up the row and give you the total, and then you've got somewhere in your syllabus, however many points they can get for an A. It doesn't have to be 100, it can be whatever number you just end up with, and it'll, set it up with whatever percentage is an A. So the students know what they're shooting for to get an A. They're shooting for 350 points or whatever it is. You can also use weighted grades. That takes a little bit more setup, but it's not difficult. The key there is that you have to make sure you categorize things correctly. If you're not using weighted grades, then it doesn't really matter how you categorize things. But if you're saying that 30% of their grade is tests and 30% of their grade is assignments and etc., then you have to make sure everything that they turn in is labeled with the correct category so that the math will turn out correct. So I can help you set that up, of course. But this one is set up just with straight points, so that's what these totals are. Now, a couple of other really important things. One thing is if you need to make a change in something, you can just do it from the top of the column. You don't have to go all the way back to wherever you put the assignment. So you could just click this button here and you can edit column information, and that will give you the opportunity to change the due date, change the points, etc. So this is just one way you can do it, but it's a very convenient way to do it. Now, I do want to point out, if you decide you're not going to count an assignment, you can leave the column in there and go into the edit option, and then you can just basically say towards the end here, I don't want to count this towards their grades and calculations, okay? Or you can make it so that the student doesn't see the column. However, that's typically not what you'd want to do. The other thing you can do is you don't have to have a score show up. You can just have complete, incomplete, and it would just show up whether they did it or not, and you're not really counting it toward their total, for example. So there's all kinds of ways you can use this, and it's all pretty self-explanatory, and I'm happy to help you with it. The other thing I want to point out is that if you decide you want to get rid of an assignment completely, then you may or may not have a delete column option. If you do have a delete column option, then you can delete it from here. And if that means you either manually created it or some other situation. However, if it's an assignment, you'll notice it will not let you delete it. And that's, again, to keep you from making a mistake and doing something you don't really want to do, because if you just simply delete it from the grade center but don't delete the actual assignment, students will still see that assignment. So what you really need to do if you decide you don't want this assignment is not delete it from the grade center, but go back under assignments, find it, and delete it there. And then it will allow you to delete this column as well. So that's another tip. So generally, there should be very unusual circumstances to hide a column. Don't normally need to do that. If you hide it, it doesn't necessarily mean that students aren't still going to see it or that it won't still count towards their total grade. So you got to be really careful with hiding a column. And if you have a question, let me know. The other thing I want to tell you is you can change the order that these show up in, because that will be the same order the students see it under My Grades. And you can also use this view that allows you to organize the columns to get a nice overview and kind of look for any errors. So if you click on column organization, now this is a fake course, so the dates are kind of all over the place. But if you scroll down to the second area, I like it because it clearly tells me my total points, so I can identify right away if there's a problem, because this is maybe this is not, maybe it's supposed to equal 500, then I know I've got a 5-point problem somewhere. So this is important to get straightened out so that you can give your students accurate grades. So you can't really do a whole lot in this view except for change the order. So if you wanted to move something around, you can just drag it by the four-headed arrow, and that again makes more sense to have these in basically chronological order as to when they're going to happen during the semester. But what I like about it is the due date column. I like to just skim down that, make sure I've got all 2014 due dates and they all look about right, and they're basically in chronological order. And then I also like to check and make sure my points look good and they match what I've got on the syllabus. And so if I see any problems, I can't really fix it here. And all I would have to do would be to go ahead and submit any changes I made here, and then I'd have to actually find that column and edit it at the top of the column like I was showing you. So I could go up and edit the column information and put in the correct due date or the correct number of points. So that's a basic overview on using assignments and the gradebook in Blackboard Learn. Hopefully this has helped you.